Well, thank you for having me here, Nicole. Like you said, we have a business. My husband wrote a book, Charcoal Remedies, and that's what started everything. I'd be really happy if anybody wants to break in, if they have a question, how can charcoal work for this or can charcoal work for that? I would be very happy to say, hey, I've got a story about that. I'm just the anecdotal person. I'm not the scientific person. I'm the one that if you call, you'll probably get me or one of our other employees, and we just share. We're not doctors. We don't give out like advice and that sort of thing, but we share what has worked for others. And some of these others are animals. And that's sometimes a good place to start. One of the most recent testimonies that we have this year that was quite amazing. One of our neighbors is a veterinarian, and she actually got on board with us. She wasn't at first, she's a veterinarian, and it was drugs, and that's how she treated her animals. And one day, her horse had been bitten by a snake, and she had given it the anti-venom shot, and it was not working. And she was really getting concerned. So she came up here and says, okay, just tell me what to do. The anti-venom shot's not working. Do you think charcoal would help? And so I said, yeah, sure, let's go for it. And it was really fun working with her because she did exactly what we told her to do. And so anyway, I said, okay, it was bit right on the nose, and the horse's big nose. And I said, what we need to do is cover his whole face, and she did, right up to the ear. She covered him completely with a charcoal gel. And so then I believe we did aloe vera gel with the charcoal, okay? And the aloe vera gel that I like to use, I get it on Amazon. It's called Lily of the Desert. Lily of the Desert. I mix half of the charcoal gel with half of the charcoal powder, okay? And now I started adding a little bit of coconut oil to it, so it will keep it moist. And don't worry about, how much exactly. You just want to add enough to keep it moist, but we don't use just charcoal and coconut oil because it's so runny and it just drips all over. Believe us, we've tried it. And then I said, you need to give some to him internally as well. The anti-venom wasn't working, so we weren't really worried about it affecting the medicine itself. And she did it, and it worked. And she was absolutely amazed and very, very happy. Well, then two of her clients had horses that were also, we live in rattlesnake country, so this is very common to have rattlesnake bites. And so their horses had been bit. Two separate incidences were bit by horses. Snakes, the rattles bit their horses. And they went to Dr. Regina, and she says, hey, this happened to my horse just recently. The anti-venom didn't work. Do you mind if I just try the charcoal and don't do the anti-venom shot? And they said, hey, sure. And so she did, and it took care of the horses completely. And so she started to really get on board after that. Well, we were out walking one morning, and we ran into her, and she started telling us about this dog that she had. He had been a 150-pound dog, and he was attacked. He had been kind of naughty. He had been in somebody else's yard, okay, and he wasn't welcomed in their yard, and the neighbors shot at him and got him in the ear. And fortunately missed his brain, but pretty well blew off, good share of his ear. And so they brought him to the vet, and she patched him up, and she sent him home. And then he just broke out with this rash, which it was basically called Pseudomonas, okay? And it's just basically like a horrible, horrible staph infection. and they had sent in his culture to a university.
I'm going to share the
And
screen.
what was
Go
that?
ahead. We're going to share the screen.
Okay, and so anyway, we they sent in his culture, and the university, the veterinarian university said, just put him down. There's nothing you can do. We have one human drug and we know it won't touch it. And so anyway, John is just right now, if you see what's happening, he's sharing their screen here, and we're just going to show a picture of Barney. And so anyway, so she was telling us about him. And so you can see how broken out he was. And so she had said, do you think charcoal would help? And I said, yeah, I really do think it would. And then one day she called up and she had literally asked the people if they would be willing to do charcoal. They said they would because the dog was dying. They didn't know if he was going to make it through the night. And so she said, do you think you could come down and just show us what to do? And so when they went ahead and they shaved the dog, and we went down there, I brought one of our employees with me, and we had him bring I brought a bunch of aloe vera gel, and I didn't use the lily of the desert this time. I used the kind of aloe vera gel that you drink, and we mixed that with the vet detox powder, and then we had olive oil instead of coconut oil. Now here you can see how bad it is. He was broken out from head to toe, and he was in such pain that they put him under because they were afraid that he might bite and such like that. And so Vicky here, she shaved him down, and then you can just go ahead and my husband's going to share the pictures here. So here we're mixing it up, keep going. And we literally covered him from head to toe. So he was shaved all the way down, and the area by his ear was really bad, but he was just covered. And it was in the winter time. It was very cold out, and so the little cell there was kind of cold. So we had a heater, and that was it. And you know, we just totally covered him. And the next day, he was hungry and he wanted to eat, and they were pretty excited. And this is him recovering. And he would have hot spots, and we kept putting it, or they did it. I was just saying, hey, you got to keep putting it on him. And that's the thing. You want, a lot of times we do something and we think that, hey, this is it. This is all I have to do. Just a couple of times and you're out of the woods. When you have something really serious going on, you're not out of the woods. We had someone, can't remember the name of the disease, but it was not a brain tumor, but he was passing out and he was vomiting. And his wife called me, and he would be listening in the background. And I shared with him about if he could take charcoal internally, because when you can take it internally, it works faster when you can apply it topically. And we did the same thing that we did with Barney here. I said, just cover your entire scalp with the charcoal. And I said, and then do this constantly. Well, how long? How long? And I said, well, at least a month or two. But I said, the problem is that you're going to start feeling better most likely, and you're going to quit doing it. That's the temptation. And so anyway, I did hear from them for a while. And then he wrote us on Facebook, and he was sharing his story. And he said the charcoal had helped tremendously. And it had eliminated his symptoms and whatnot. And he quit doing it earlier than we had suggested doing. You know, he stopped before he should have. And he started getting symptoms back, but he says, I know what to do. And so that is really critical when you're dealing with something very serious, like with Barney the dog, or with this man. I wish I could remember what the brain thing was. I tried to find it the other day and I couldn't find it on Facebook. But anyway, so we've talking about the brain. When we were in Australia, it was in 2010, and John was up sharing testimonies, and I went outside in the foyer to just, you know, start visiting with the people and such. And this Polish grandma came up to me, and started sharing with me. And she says, I just have to share this amazing story. And so I said, okay. And they had a dear friend that had a brain tumor, and he had gone to the doctor, and they said it was so bad that they didn't want to do surgery. They said, if we do surgery, you're going to probably go blind and or die during the operation. It was just in a really super bad location. He had excruciating headaches, as you can imagine. Well, this Polish grandma and her husband went to their friend and said, would you be willing to just try charcoal poultices? We don't know if it'll work, but it's worth a try. And he says, I'm willing to try anything. And so what they did was, I believe it was on his right side, and they just covered his whole head. Now, this is really easy to do when you're a man. You can literally shave your head or just have it super short. And he was a man, so it was easy. But just keep in mind, we have done this with women too, and they didn't cut their hair. Okay, so they covered completely with a poultice. And what we do now is we just literally apply it topically. But let me tell you, after 2 weeks, his headaches were almost gone. And he kept it up and kept it up and kept it up every single night, and even in the daytime. And so then in 3 months, he went back to the doctor, and they were so excited. They said, your tumor is shrinking. Okay, he kept it up. He kept it up. He didn't quit. Okay, he kept it up. And after 6 months, he went back in again for another MRI, and they were really excited because why? The doctor said there is no need for surgery. The tumor was almost gone. And so that was very exciting. And so we've used charcoal, another amazing story. And like I said, anybody wants to jump in and say, hey, what about this? The eyes are so critical. Well, one day we had a phone call from a gal, and she was ordering a bunch of our charcoal. And she said, maybe you want to hear our story, my story. I said, well, of course. And so she started to share. And she had this very rare eye disease. It's called pars planitis ocular inflammatory disorder. And it is very rare, but interestingly enough, we get people who find the story on our website. And so we've actually know of different people that have had this. It's a very aggressive disease, and I usually go blind with it. She was seeing a top doctor, I believe it was in Boston. And the first time, her first visit with him, he gave her steroid drops, and they just made her eyes worse. And she went back again with her mom. Her mom was waiting in the reception room, and the doctor gave her a prescription for chemotherapy for her eyes. And as he handed it to her, he said, you will probably go blind. She's 28 years old, married, young mom. And she went out to tell her mom waiting for her. And her mom was a registered nurse. And her mom said, Amanda, just don't take the prescription. I got to do some searching. Let's find somebody that can help you naturally. And Amanda started praying, and she prayed, God, I will do anything you want me to do. Please don't let me go blind. And so anyway, she found this doctor, Dr. John Clark. They have a ministry called Northern Health Lights Ministry. Dr. John and his wife, Julie. And anyway, long story short, they started communicating, and Dr. John said to Amanda, he says, Amanda, I want you to do 4 things for me. He says, I want you to go on an all raw food diet, not forever, just right now. I want you to eliminate all added sugar. She still did honey, natural sugar and fruit and such, but no added sugar, no refined sugar of any sort. Then he said, I want you to increase your pure water intake. Okay. And then 4th, I want you to do hot and cold fomentations over your eyes, and then place a charcoal poultice over your eyes and sleep with that all night long. Okay. Well, do you know that after 24 hours of doing this, she was looking at the lights and she's like, there's no halos around lights. You know, and it was just normal for her to always have halos around lights. And so as time went on, she could tell her eyes were getting better. And not only that, people were asking her, hey, how come the whites of your eyes are so white? And anyway, it was eventually time for her to go back to the doctor. He examined her eyes and he said, the beast is gone. And he dismissed her. He just dismissed her. And she said, wait a minute, don't you want to know what I did? And he said, you took the chemotherapy that I gave you. And he walked out. He didn't want to know. Unfortunately, there are a lot of good doctors out there that want to know. I can tell you some amazing stories of these doctors, but this one didn't want to know. And he just left the room. But anyway, after that, we had this iPad, which she didn't use. Now what Amanda did was she made her own charcoal poultices and such. Okay, that's a little bit of a work. She did it with charcoal, water, and ground flaxseed and placed them over her eyes. Well, now we have actually created a charcoal iPad. We have a couple different kinds. This one right here is all silk, okay, and it's really easy to wear. Just have to have it on backwards. Let's see. Put it on, and whoops, I'm sorry. But you put it on like that, and it has straps, okay? They have removable straps, so you don't have to wear it if you don't want the strap on. Now, I also have a flannel one. On the flannel one, which is all organic material, even the insert, on the flannel one, you steam it, okay? And one of our customers, her son is one of the top ophthalmologists in the country. And he was saying how good the heat is for your eyes. And so we have the flannel one so you can steam it. And it is a little bit laborious. And I know people don't always do it. And so then I designed the black one with the silk. Okay, so the silk one, and all you have to do with this one is run it underwater and just, well, I like hot, but you could use cold if you wanted to. But what I do is I get it as hot as I possibly can get it. And I do this, guys, almost every single night. My husband can testify to that. And then you just put it on and it feels so good. And you just press the charcoal, kind of move it around. You can just really get it against your eyes and you just leave it there. I don't use the strap because doesn't matter if I use it or not, I will whip it off during the night when I fall asleep. So I just lay it on my eyes, and I'm not a person to fall asleep right away. So I leave it on for a good hour or more every single night. But if you can leave it on all night, the more, the better. We've had people that have had, let's see, do you have something to say?
Let me break in right here and show you on our website where you can see how to make a poultice. Where is our, not seeing it here, screen share. See if we can collapse this one. And we'll go to our website. Here is our website. If you can see this, this is our charcoalremedies.com website. It's the same name as our book. And here is the menu bar. And here is a bunch of resources on the resource tab where you can go to find different things. And one of them is how to make a charcoal poultice. If you're looking for different diseases, health conditions that you want to treat, it's at the top of the list. But down here, how to make a charcoal poultice. And there are some videos here of Kimberly showing how to make different poultices, which is very helpful. Obviously, you're going to be in a situation one of these days where you don't have one of these nice handmade eye masks, and you're going to have to make your own charcoal poultice. And this is where you can go and access this information.
Okay, so you can see the first one there with the plaid jacket. That's the kind that Amanda made. So she just made one just to go right over her eyes, the gal with pars planitis. Okay. And so just to share what other people have used it for. One time we had a gal that had, what did she have? Oh, but nothing. That's right. She had nothing wrong with her eyes. She was just looking for, she was wanted to block out light. Okay. And so while she was sleeping, so she decided, well, hey, you know, she knew about charcoal, she knew about her iPads. She said, why don't I just get one of their iPads and use that to block out, because that's kind of healthy anyway. And so she did that. About a year later, she called us. It was kind of fun. And she had just came back from her eye exam. And she says, you won't believe this. She says, I started using your iPad, you know, the white one, the flannel one, to keep out light every night. And she says, I just got back from the doctor, and one of my eyes, my vision is now 20/20, and the other one had improved greatly as well. And she says, I have done nothing different. And she says, except for using the iPad. And so it was pretty exciting that the charcoal actually improved dry, because she wasn't using it wet. And yes, you can use these dry. Why do we get them wet? Why are the poultices always wet? Why do we add a little olive oil or coconut oil to the poultice so it'll stay moist all night? Because they have discovered that when the charcoal is wet, it has more drying power, pulling, drying power. And so that is why we want to keep it moist or wet when we in the gel part. Okay. And so that is, let's see, we had another gal with the eyes. She was an elderly woman. This is a true story. It's really kind of fun. We had a gal working for us that was a church member, and her name was Carrie. And one day she got this call from this woman who said that her elderly friend who has macular degeneration, one of the worst cases at the Denver healthcare system. And she said, my elderly friend had a dream last night. And in this dream, an angel told her that charcoal would help her eyes. And she asked me if I would do some research, and she found us because of our eye stories. And so she started talking to Carrie. And so she ended up getting a couple of the iPads. And do you know that it turned around her macular degeneration because she couldn't read, she was going blind, and now an elderly person, she was in her late 80s and is now reading and gardening and such again. And so she was very excited. And like I said, an angel told her, and we wouldn't have believed it unless the woman was surprised too. And so anyway, it truly was a God thing. Anybody have any questions? Otherwise, I'll just keep sharing stuff. Anybody have anything they want to ask what charcoal works for? No?
You can just unmute yourself and ask or raise your hand. Anyone will work for you. If you have any questions for Kimberly and John.
Yeah, just ask me, because I'll just keep going on. I can go on and on. Let's see, look, so we've covered the eyes. That's the thing. I'm sharing a lot of things of people.
Kimberly,
you know,
Letitia, you can unmute yourself and ask the question.
Go ahead.
Do you change the charcoal in the iPad? How often do you change it?
Oh, that's a good question. Okay. So when we make if we made the charcoal poultice, we would just wear it once and throw it away if we use the paper. And if we use the black silk one, okay, that we just wash it, rinse it out every night and such, if you have an eye problem, say you have macular degeneration or glaucoma, whatever it is that you have, and we do have stories on glaucoma, by the way, we suggest that you replace it every 2 months, okay?
Guess what?
Okay.
Replace the
Okay.
iPad. Now, the flannel one, we're out of the flannel ones right now. But the flannel ones have an insert and they're reusable, but you just replace the insert every 2 months. However,
Okay.
if you don't have an eye problem, I don't have per se any eye disease, but I use it every night because I'm on the computer all the time, all day long, hours and hours. So I get floaters and that sort of thing. And it's extremely helpful for that.
Irritation.
And so I
Yes, because I have floaters.
yes, and it's really helpful for floaters. And I'll just tell you something else that's really good for floaters. Exercise. Exercising your eyes.
Okay.
Squeezing your eyes really tight, and then you tighter and tighter and tighter, and then opening them up really, really wide. And do that, throughout the day, and then
Okay.
putting a charcoal iPad or poultice on at night, and it's amazing. And so,
Okay.
yeah. And so now I don't change my eye because I don't have any eye diseases. I change mine out about every 6 months.
Okay. All right. Thanks much. Thanks.
That's pretty good for pink eye.
It also works for pink eye, for glaucoma. We had a woman who had, trying to think, I think her eye pressure was like at 22. I want to sometimes say 24, but I think it was 22. And she didn't like doing the charcoal poultice at night. And so she got up early in the morning and placed it over her eyes for 2 hours. Okay, so from 4 to 6 at least a minimum of 2 hours. And she did that for, I can't remember how long, a month, 2 months, whatever. And when she went back to the eye doctor, her pressure was normal down to 12. So it's very helpful for so many eye diseases, pink eye, any kind of inflammation, that sort of thing. One thing though, is that charcoal has the ability to pull not only toxins, but we've had like foreign objects and stuff that have literally been pulled out through with charcoal. And so we err on the side of caution if people have had cataract surgery. We know people that have used it, that have had the surgery already, that have the implants, but they do that on their own, and that's something that we wouldn't suggest them to do. Okay.
For
And
implants.
for implants, yeah. And we've talked a lot about using charcoal topically, and that was very intentional because as a society, we are so oriented to taking a pill, popping something into our mouth, okay, and just expect the magic to begin. But charcoal does work that way too. You might have a really upset stomach, which I think a lot of your listeners know that they're used to taking charcoal internally for upset stomachs and that sort of thing. And it works amazing. And I personally, yours truly, takes 2 heaping tablespoons of charcoal every night. And the reason for that is because I don't know what's in the air. I don't know what's in all my water. I don't even know what's in all of my food. I try to do as best as I possibly can,
When you're traveling.
but I take it every day, and I even take it with me when I travel. It's a ritual. I do it every night. Well, how I usually take it is I take it in a small amount of water, about 1/4 of a cup of water with 2 heaping tablespoons. And I just do the water first. I do really hot water. And then I put my charcoal in and I just leave it. I walk away for about 10, 15 minutes. Charcoal is not soluble. It doesn't dissolve. And so it'll sink to the bottom. And so after 10-15 minutes, the charcoal will sink below the surface of the water, and then that's when I stir it up. And so I used to take my charcoal and then brush my teeth and go to bed. Well, in the fall of 2019, I was starting to have some really bad gum issues, and my gums were receding, and they were causing little tiny cavities on my canine teeth. Okay. And so anyway, okay, ooh, boy. And by, let's see, that started like in November or whatever, when I really noticed it. And by January 20, I went to a doctor, you know, not far from here, about an hour away, a dentist. And he said, oh, you, because of your receding gums, you need a surgery. And I thought, oh, that didn't really sound good to me. And so I started doing a little research, and I found a dentist in Denver. Well, lo and behold, this is 2020, and COVID hit. And so I didn't make the appointment with the Denver doctor, and everything started closing down. But after going to the dentist, I just thought, I gotta get serious about, you know, charcoal on my gums, because I'm taking all this charcoal, but I'm brushing it off. And so I switched my routine. And this is what I started to do. I would brush my teeth. Then, you know, I took the charcoal in a small amount. It's kind of muddy like. And I do a sip and swish. And I take another sip and swish, and another sip and swish. And then I just wipe my mouth off, and I sleep with it on. And I did this for months. Things didn't open up. I was not able to get to the dentist until the middle of June of 2020. So I had been doing this for months, every single night. I've never been to this dentist before. He was highly recommended. He actually was a teaching dentist at the university. And they did a full mouth x-ray because they had never seen me before. And when he came in to look at the x-rays, I had looked at them. I thought they looked pretty good. And he just sat there looking at the x-rays. And then finally he turned to me and he says, you have had really good dental work done. And I said, why do you say that? And he says, because you have a number of root canals and you have no infections whatsoever. Well, I was with him that day and the next day, and it wasn't appropriate at that time to talk to him about charcoal, but I was able to talk to him the next day that, hey, it wasn't because of this great dental work I had done, because I was having some serious gum disease. And you can go on our website, you can see where I had, what was it, an infection in my mouth that looked like I had a golf ball in there. And so it wasn't because of great dental work, but it was because of what the charcoal was doing. And because I had been doing the charcoal and my gums were now so much healthier and stronger, and they quit receding, he was able to do something totally apart from surgery. And I didn't need anything but just some little dental work done, and that was it. So that was pretty exciting. And you can find the story. We have a blog called charcoaltimes.com. It's like New York Times, but it's charcoaltimes.com. And it has the charcoal protocol. It has how I take the charcoal internally. And I'll just share a little bit about my taking the charcoal internally. It was actually another dental visit that had caused me to start taking the charcoal long-term like I do. I had had my mercury amalgams removed on my lower half, and I probably was a little too aggressive. They wanted to wait more, but anyway, I had them done on both sides. And afterward, I started to get really foggy. And the interesting thing about my getting foggy was I noticed it really at first. And then after a while, I just started living with it. And I I don't know, I just did. And one day at work, one of my employees, who was also a good friend of mine, said, you just asked that. I kept asking the same question over and over again. She says, what are you getting, Alzheimer's or something? And it was just like a slap across my face. And I thought, oh my goodness. And I felt like I was walking through walls, these invisible walls. And so I went home and I just started drinking we have this charcoal, it's called Detox and Cleanse. And back then we called it Detox 1600. And I don't know how much charcoal I took that day. All I can say is lots, probably 5 glasses. I don't have no clue. Anyway, after 3 days of just taking a lot of charcoal, it was like I was normal again. My brain was so clear. And I didn't start the protocol right away, but after I started thinking about it, and I actually learned this protocol from a guy who's not a doctor, but he had a health clinic, and he literally saw street druggies get clear by taking charcoal and following this protocol. And you can find the protocol on charcoaltimes.com. And what it is like for 3 weeks, you take an incredible amount of charcoal 5 times a day with lots of water, of course. And then after the 3 weeks, for 10 weeks, you take it only 3 times a day, but you're still taking a serious amount of charcoal. And you're keeping it in your body at all times, okay? And then after the 10 weeks, after the 13-week period, then you just do a maintenance level of, a tablespoon, whatever. And so I didn't really expect anything to happen because I felt like I was pretty healthy now. Wish I had kept a journal. Around 7 or 8 weeks, I'm not quite sure, I passed a huge parasite. And I was just like, oh my goodness, what's going on? And I feel good. And so I went on the internet. It's like, oh, wow, I passed a huge parasite. And just that one. And then nothing else. It seemed like nothing else. And so after the 13 weeks, I'm kind of thinking, okay, I'm pretty good. And all of a sudden it dawned on me that I didn't have a yeast infection. And I always had a yeast infection. And I know this is very personal, but our bodies are our bodies, and we all share the same type of body. And so anyway, I literally had to wear pads every single day because of my yeast infections. And why did I have yeast infections? Because when I was a little girl, and this is no joke, I would have strep throat, when I was really little, every month. Okay, I go to the doctor, they give me a shot, and I go back the next day and they give me a booster shot of penicillin. And then when I was about 7 or 8 years old, then they started giving me a prescription on top of the 2 shots. So I totally remember having these yeast infections even as a little kid. And then as I got older, around 14, 15, I would have it through the winter months almost every month, but then in the summer I was pretty good. And then when I was about 27 and I had insurance, I went to the doctor and he said, oh, you got to get rid of these tonsils, because I was at an age that they wouldn't take believe it or not, as much as I had strep throat, they wouldn't take my tonsils out. And so then when I was 27 and had my tonsils removed, I was pretty good. And after that, I wasn't on antibiotics all the time, but I just never got rid of my yeast infection. And I tried many things and I just got to the point of living with it. So that was the amazing thing. And really, we shouldn't be surprised because the charcoal is antifungal and antibacterial. Now we find when people can take charcoal internally and they use it topically, it works even faster. And so anyway, the one thing I need to mention is that I'm not on any kind of medications whatsoever, but charcoal does not discriminate between poisons or toxins, which is what medications are. And it will absorb and very quickly
Expect-
most of your medications. Excuse
Expect
me.
it to, it may not, but
It may not, but it's most likely it will make most of your medications of none effect.
Mm.
But you know what? There's one medication that it doesn't touch, and that is like there's certain antidepressants that what is it called?
lithium.
Lithium, and it doesn't touch it. Well, why is that? Because it's a salt. Okay, and that's something that people ask a lot, is that, and maybe John did cover this, that charcoal is not interested in your nutrients and it's not interested in your minerals. And you'll hear that a lot,
It
and
absorbs it. Yeah.
that it will absorb your nutrients or your minerals. And there's some amazing studies out there that literally prove that it doesn't. And so I'm going to get thinking about, these studies, like when people call and say, well, my doctor says it's going to absorb all of my nutrients or this, that, and the other thing. And I'll share the story about old laboratory rats or the sheep that were given charcoal 5% of their food intake for 6 months, and their blood and urine and hair tests, everything just got better and better, but I'll just, a lot of times that doesn't convince them. And I'll just say, have them show you the empirical studies that proves that. And we have yet to not have anybody show us conclusively
The
within
charcoal
an
absorbs
empirical study that charcoal absorbs nutrients. Now, another thing we didn't mention on the teeth, how charcoal, people use charcoal on their teeth. It's really amazing. We had somebody call up who said, I got to get some charcoal powder, to brush my teeth with. He says, a friend of mine just got back from the dentist, and so he went on to share her testimony, and she had been brushing her teeth with charcoal powder. And what you do is you brush your teeth with a little charcoal powder, and then you use toothpaste afterwards. And the dentist was digging around in her teeth, and all of a sudden he stood up and looked at her, and he says, wow, I have never seen such clean teeth in all my practice. What are you doing? And so it really does help. You can feel it, how it cleans your teeth, but you're going to go online and people are they're going to say, well, charcoal is dangerous for your teeth. Okay. Because it's way too abrasive. Okay. Now we actually have our own toothpaste. We have an adult one, and we have a children one where we use all organic cherry flavoring and such. And we have somebody write us and started, really kind of came down on us about how this is really dangerous for children. Okay, you should be ashamed of yourself for promoting this for children. Okay, so we took matters into our own hands. We sent both of our toothpaste to a dental university in Indiana. We paid $1,000 to have it tested, and this is just third party. The results are the results, whatever. And do you know what? The charcoal toothpaste, our charcoal toothpaste, it had a rating of like 91, or what was it? 91, something around there, which is way, way safer. Way safer than Colgate or Crest or all those ones that the dentists recommend for your teeth. So if anybody tells you that charcoal is not safe, we do use a very super fine powdered charcoal. I will admit that, but it is safe for your teeth.
We go to different countries and
John just mentioned, we go to different countries. So like one time, well, we were in America, but we were at a church that was mostly, what were they? What was their nationality? Kenyan? Yeah, they're mostly Kenyan. And we had put on a program. And some of the people came up and said, we're so excited. They said, you know what? Our parents and our grandparents would chew on charcoal after eating. And I don't know if any of you guys, maybe in your country as well, but in Africa, it's everywhere, but I've never seen such beautiful teeth. It is amazing.
But we've heard reports that people use the charcoal in different countries that you've been to.
And so he was just saying that we've heard reports of how they've used charcoal in different countries, but people in Africa, a lot of the people there have just the most gorgeous teeth. You just wouldn't believe it. But anyway, so we covered the teeth. Obviously, charcoal is good for your teeth. A lot of people use it on their skin.
John uses it for his infections for his root canals.
Well, yeah, we covered.
You have that experience,
Yeah, we
but I
had.
use it as well.
He uses it for the root canals. He's talking in the background here. But it's also good for the face. Now you're looking at me and you can see that I don't have any makeup on, but I do have a little brown spot here and such, but I used to have a lot of brown spots. And so my spots they clumped together that it was almost like, ugh, one big spot here and one big spot here. Was really a bummer. And so anyway, using charcoal as a facial mask is really helpful, but taking it every day, when I started taking it every single day, that's when my skin really started to improve immensely. And so cover the face. We've had people who have used it. I guess I covered pars planitis, and that's a rare serious disease. Sometimes I'm a little cautious going into some of these because we did cover the brain tumor, but we had a man who had pancreatic cancer, okay? And his was a very interesting story. He was a lay pastor, and he was being treated for acid reflux, okay? And he just had a really bad attack one day. It was so severe. He went to the urgent care, and no, he went to the emergency room. And so he was examined and whatnot. And after the exam, the doctor told him they were very sorry to tell him, but he had pancreatic cancer, and with surgery, he may have 6 months. Now, I don't know if you're familiar with pancreatic cancer, but usually people don't find out they have it until they're in their last stages. And a lot of times they don't last more than 3 months. But the doctor is being generous at 6 months with the surgery. And, you know, Pastor David just said, well, I got to pray about this. And the doctor said, well, pray about it on the way to the reception desk there, because you really need the surgery like now. But he didn't. He went home, he researched, and one day I got a call. And we started talking, and first he just bought the book, and he just zoomed through the book. He read the book, and then I get another call, and he literally bought a whole sack of charcoal, and we started talking, okay? And I had learned this from a Korean years ago. When somebody is really sick, and sometimes they have no clue what's wrong, they would cover their entire trunk, front and back, okay, with amazing results, because that's where the majority of your organs are, okay? And so I shared this with Pastor David. I said, what you need to do is to cover your front and back completely, and it'd be very helpful to take the charcoal internally also. And you know what? He was another fun one to work with because he did it. And so what he ended up doing was he would make like a quadruple amount of charcoal, okay? And he started out putting poultices on, but that got very cumbersome. So what he ended up doing was he had his wife take 2 of the old-fashioned diapers, those old cloth diapers, and she put straps on them. And so it hung like a vest, like the highway guys on the road. And then they put straps on the side so they could cinch it up. And so just cover his front and cover his back full of the charcoal gel, okay? Then they would put this diaper on and cinch it up, and then take a little bit of like an ace bandage just to keep it on all night long. Now, he couldn't take the charcoal internally. He tried. He took the charcoal internally, and his cancer was so progressed, it just cramped his stomach. It was just too much. And so all he did was do the outside, applying it topically. And he did that for months, and he started feeling better. And then he started taking the charcoal, started really slow, started taking the charcoal internally as well. And that, my friends, was years and years ago. And he's still doing well. He totally recovered from pancreatic cancer. And this guy became an amazing charcoal, John said charcoal missionary. I was going to say enthusiast, but he literally became a charcoal missionary because he started even sharing in his sermons on charcoal and natural remedies, not just charcoal. I mean, it just changed his life. He started, he turned his backyard into a garden. He actually became vegan. He just started learning all about herbs and essential oils and everything. It was just amazing. And he actually has some amazing stories. One of his amazing stories was he had a friend who had cirrhosis of the liver, who had a terrible attack. And he called him up and said, well, can you come over here? I'm just so sick. And he went over there and he made a charcoal poultice for him. And in 15, 20 minutes, the attack was gone. And the guy just wasn't into totally doing natural, and he ended up having surgery and stuff. But Pastor David was disappointed because he thought that maybe he could have done it naturally. And then he had another fun story. One time his dog had just had puppies, and it was, I can't remember what kind of dog, but they were going to sell them. And the neighbor's pit bull came over and attacked the puppies and killed all but one. And the one puppy, they were able to get away from him, but it was just mangled. And he had a leg just limping, hanging down. And it was like Saturday night, and the vet wasn't open, and they didn't know what to do. And so Pastor David just made up a bunch of charcoal. His daughter was hysterical. And he just literally covered the dog with charcoal, like we did with Barney, how we opened up the program. And then he just wrapped him. And he said, I really didn't expect him to live through the night, just like Barney. And in the morning, he was alive. Oh, and when they wrapped him up, he put the leg where he kind of thought where the leg should be. It was a floppy little puppy. And he put the leg where he thought it should be, all covered with charcoal, and then wrapped it. And then he literally left the puppy for a few days like that. Can't remember if it was 3 days or more before they even touched him, but every day he was alive, and they could get him to eat something. And then they eventually unwrapped him and took everything off and then redid it. And they ended up not bringing him to the vet, and they ended up selling him. You couldn't even tell that he had had an accident. And so that story just kind of reminded me of something that happened in Uganda. We had met this young man via the internet, and then we ended up going over to Uganda. And so we have this relationship with this young man named Willie, who runs an AIDS orphanage. And he had a young man come to him who had lost an arm in an electrical fire, and he was going to lose the other arm as well. The antibiotics, everything, nothing was working. And this young man had heard about Willie, and he came to him and just begged him, please, can you help me? Willie, not very lovely, kind Christian person, but he was a little concerned because he would be going against the hospital, and it made him a little nervous. But then he thought, hey, I got to help this kid. So he did. And so what he did was he totally covered his arm all the way up, just thick, with a charcoal gel. And he wrapped it up and told him to come back the next day, and he'd do it again. Kid didn't come back, and he didn't come back. And he didn't see him for over a week. And the kid left it on for over a week. Now, we would tell you to change that out every single day. Okay. But the kid didn't. And after a week, it was looking really good. And so then he was able to change it, and it totally saved his arm. And that was just an amazing thing. And now that I'm talking about Willie,
Sorry.
I need to share something that was really very exciting. We had spent the whole month with them, and when we were leaving, Willie's wife was pregnant, and she could get pregnant, but she couldn't stay pregnant. She would lose the child at 3, 4, 5 months. And every single pregnancy ended in a miscarriage. And it was very heartbreaking for them. And when we were leaving, Willie says, do you think that the charcoal will help, with, keeping the baby? I said, hey, why not try? I don't know why it would, but why not try? And so it won't hurt the baby. All charcoal does is absorb toxins and poisons. So do you think the baby can live with less of that? And so she started taking the charcoal internally every day. And she carried the baby healthfully. And she had a normal delivery and had a healthy little baby. Well, just shortly, not long after that, well, it was a while. The baby was about 9 months old or so. And John was, I didn't go this time. John went to Uganda and met up with Willie, and his wife was Gladys, went on stage to share her testimony, and she brought her cousin up who was pregnant. And here's the deal. So Gladys was able to carry the baby full term, and everybody was so excited and happy for her, but her cousin could not get pregnant for the life of her. She just couldn't get pregnant. And she says, do you think that the charcoal would help me get pregnant? And Gladys said, well, why don't you try? And so she started taking the charcoal internally every day and every day and every day. And there she was pregnant, and she was able, everybody was so happy for her. And so I had shared this story with one of our workers, or one of our new employees, and she just didn't bother using contraceptives because she couldn't get pregnant. I mean, she had a baby. He was 6 years old or whatever, but she and her husband never used contraceptives because she just wasn't getting pregnant. And I shared this with her, and she started taking charcoal every day. And now we have little Anna Lee, and she comes to work with her mom. And so it really worked for her. So that was pretty exciting.
We have people with animals who they have a high mortality rate.
Oh yeah, John was just mentioning about with animals, how charcoal is so helpful for their mortality rate. Well, one thing is that this one guy was using charcoal for finches, the birds, the little birds. He raised the little birds, and they have
50% mortality.
50% of mortality. 50% of the birds will literally die, and before he's able to sell them or anything. And so we have activated charcoal for birds. It's a granular charcoal, and the birds, they'll just eat it, and it literally reduced the mortality rate to 0. He didn't lose any birds with the charcoal. And so, like giving it to chickens, giving it to your animals. For the chickens, it increases their egg laying, their egg production. For cows, it will increase their milk production, all that sort of thing. And with cows, that's an amazing thing. It really helps with, it's called scours, and it's like colic in baby. And so charcoal is so safe that you can literally give it to a newborn baby. Well, you can literally take it while you're pregnant, and you can take it while you're nursing, and you can give it to a brand new baby with an upset tummy, and you can give it literally internally, or if you feel more comfortable, making a charcoal poultice and placing it over the baby's tummy. And so let's see, what have we covered?
Any questions?
Any questions yet? Otherwise, I'll go on to using charcoal for like diabetes and stuff.
Mention the toothbrush, 50%.
That's okay. Any questions, guys? I don't know if anybody's there.
They're there.
Oh, okay.
We're all trying to.
We're hearing you. They're there. They probably don't have any questions.
We are here. We are here.
We can just
Okay.
go
Enjoy
ahead
the
with
program.
diabetes.
Do you want me to talk more?
I you.
It's going to be a non-productive period.
So one of the things I was going to bring up, oh, does somebody have a question?
Yes, good evening.
Good evening.
Did you say that the charcoal poultice is good, can remedy glaucoma?
Yes, we had a woman that her glaucoma was at like, her eye pressure was like at 24 or 22. Yeah, I always increase it. And so anyway, she literally made a charcoal poultice and placed it over her eyes for 2 hours. She did it from 4 in the morning to 6 in the morning. The more, the better. If you can sleep with it all night long, I pull it off in the night, so I can't. But if you can sleep with it as long as you can, that is great. And she kept doing this every single day. And when she went back to the doctor, her pressure was down to 12. Now, I just want to mention something. The first time, or I don't know if it was the first time, but it was early on when I started using the iPads. It was the flannel one. I had steamed it, put it on, and I just kind of laid back for a while and I fell asleep. And all of a sudden I woke up and it was the strangest feeling. It was just like, I can't really explain it. It was just like this pulling out of my eyes, and it was so tiny and just coming out of my eyes. And it didn't hurt. It did not hurt, but it felt strange. And sometimes you can literally feel the pulling. We had Barbara Kerr shares with her story when she was using it, or it wasn't personally her, the lady next to her who had Crohn's, and they had placed a large poultice over her abdomen. And she just, she just thought the pulling was too weird feeling, and she didn't like it. And I think Barbara felt it, but it didn't bother her. And I do know somebody with a brain tumor that could feel the pulling. Most people do not feel the pulling. I only felt it that one time, but just so you know that it is something that really does happen.
Glass right out of the flesh.
Yes.
Thorns,
It has
broken pieces of
literally,
bone.
it is literally pulled in the book, Charcoal Remedies, the complete handbook of medicinal charcoal. You'll read a story of a man who was soaking his feet in charcoal and then putting a charcoal poultice on, and it literally pulled a piece of bone out. He was broken bone. Yeah. And so he was going to a doctor, and he had this incredible pain in his foot and an infection, and they couldn't figure out what it was. And so finally they decided that maybe they would have to just amputate, and that didn't sound like a plan to him. And so he started looking around for something a little more natural, and found the charcoal, started soaking his feet in charcoal, and also putting the charcoal directly on. And he went back to the doctor with the little piece of bone to show him what it was. And the pain was gone, of course. It was all over with. And I personally had a tiny, tiny little, I don't know what it was, a black cyst or whatever, that worked its way out with the charcoal as well. It didn't hurt, but it did pull it out. We've had amazing stories. I'm trying to think of, I don't know how much time I have. I have one story of the heart.
Kim, we have about 15 more minutes, so you can speak on the diabetes as you had promised after you finish this story.
Okay, I won't talk about the heart. I'll talk about the diabetes and stuff. Well, a lot of times people have diabetes.
Hold on. Can you speak about the heart, please? Mention the heart.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, it was very interesting. This happened some time ago, about 4 or 5 years ago. And this woman was having this very enlarged heart. Okay, now her sister is very health oriented. She's an Adventist. She knows a lot about health and she really applies it. But her sister wouldn't have anything to do with it really. But her sister had numerous surgeries, this, that, and the other thing. And now she had an enlarged heart and she could barely move her neck. And so her sister came over and just said, can you just put a charcoal poultice? Actually, she used one of our patches because that was easier for her. It's nice and neat and she didn't have to make a poultice. So she just made a ready-made patch. I said, would you please put this on? It's like, I don't know if my doctor would allow me to do this. And so anyway, the Adventist gal had a friend who was a nurse practitioner and she had her talk to her and says, it's okay, that won't matter. You're going to the doctor tomorrow. Just put it on, you'll be fine. So they put the charcoal patch on her. And in the morning, when they took it off, it stunk to high heaven. It was the most foul smelling patch. It just smelled so terrible. And she's like, oh, wow. And she says, and so she grabbed the unused patches and says, I got to bring these to the doctor and show them. And her sister says, you're bringing the stinky one with also. You need to show him that. And so they had been working with her for years. Not years. They had been working with her for, I don't know how many months or a little over a year with this enlarged heart getting worse and not really knowing what it was. And when she showed him the smelly patch, the doctor, and he smelled it, immediately he knew what was wrong. And she had a surgery about over a year ago, and they had intubated her. And when they took it out, they did not do it well. And it had caused an infection that went to her heart. And the doctor just immediately put it together. And he knew how to treat it, and she got better, and it was amazing. And he said, how did you know to do this? And so then her sister who was with her, the Adventist, she said, well, because of this book, and so we'll bring you a book. The doctor said, please do. So they gave John's book to the doctor. And then he turned around and bought 2 more books for each of his nurses. And he is now using it in his practice. And so, I mean, I don't know for all sorts of heart conditions or whatever, but in this one application, it did work. Now going to the diabetes, where a lot of times people—
Kim, before you go to the diabetes, Pearl Murray, you have a question. You can unmute and ask Kim your question.
Yeah. Yes, excuse me. For those persons who have had cataract removed from the eyes, is it safe to use the poultice for glaucoma?
Safe to use a poultice after they've had cataract surgery.
if we're hesitant to say that it's okay to use the charcoal poultices if you've had the cataract surgery, because the cataract surgery means that you've had an implant. But the thing is, well, usually.
We're talking specifically about implants.
Okay.
So,
If you've had the implants, the lenses, we don't recommend it. However, a friend of John's, I just know him by the phone, but they're friends of John's over in the United Kingdom. And his wife had cataract surgery, and it did not go well with her. Her eyes were just terrible afterwards. She wasn't recovering. They couldn't get to the bottom of it. Nothing was helping. The doctors just couldn't get her eyes normal again. And so finally they just started to use charcoal poultices over her eyes, and it totally pulled her through.
Yeah.
And I did hear you say something about glaucoma, and yes, the charcoal does work really well with the glaucoma.
Joanne, good luck. You can unmute yourself and ask your question.
go ahead.
Thank you so much for taking my question. Sister Kim, good evening. Thank you for the presentation. I read in Back to Eden, no home should be without charcoal.
I
No
agree.
home should be without charcoal. So I am so grateful for the charcoal stories. I would like to know what your thoughts on systematic lupus and charcoal.
Systematic lupus.
Mhm.
I can't say that we've ever used it for lupus. What we have used is hydrotherapy for lupus and diet. Kimberly will often say, what harm is it going to be to try? We had, I think I mentioned last time, a lady who had very, very elevated high blood pressure, 220 over 180. And she took a bath regularly in charcoal water, warm bath with charcoal powder in it. And her blood pressure came down and kept coming down until it was 120 over 80. Now that's something I never would have ever thought of using it for. But again, in lupus,
With the blood.
who knows? I mean,
Yeah, really.
Take a bath in charcoal water.
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely amazing taking baths in charcoal. Now, talk about a mess, that's for sure. But one time we had one of the gals that worked on our Facebook and blog, and somebody had written in, would charcoal help grow your hair back? And I was like, well, I don't know why it would help grow your hair back, but if you're dyeing your hair, the charcoal will help remove the toxins that, because dyeing your hair is a very unhealthy thing to do, putting toxins right next to your brain. And so if you were to make a paste and cover it, completely, that could be very helpful, because of all the damage you've done with the toxins that might be preventing the hair growth. So maybe it will help. And so the gal who was, doing things for me, tweaking things and stuff, she had had chemotherapy and years ago, and she had this one patch on her head that would never grow back. And since she had started working for us, she started taking charcoal baths. And she would take the charcoal bath in the hardwood. We have coconut shell, we have bamboo, we have hardwood. The hardwood is the one that we recommend for taking a bath in, because one, this is big, it washes off much easier, and it's just easier to keep control of and keep, the tub and yourself clean. But also it's called mesoporous, and so it can absorb a wide variety of molecule sizes. And she was in the habit, the gal that worked for us, of taking a bath every single day to help detox from the chemotherapy. And she said if she would just miss even a day, she would start to feel off and kind of edgy. It really helped. But she never put her head under the water. She was just, up to her neck, and that was it. And after she, read what I had, my response to this woman about the hair, she thought, So she started putting her head back in the water every day when she took her bath. And, in a couple of weeks, her hair started to grow back. And so we never know the power of charcoal when you're taking, a bath. What, you want to say something?
I'm just going to respond again to that lupus. Maybe you know that the word lupus means wolf. So it's an autoimmune disease where the blood is eating itself. And the Bible tells us the life is in the blood. What is triggering this? And a lot of times we don't know what the trigger is. Is it a toxin? Is it something in the body that the body is producing that's causing this process? So I would highly recommend that the person, if they have lupus, to give the baths a try. And as Kimberly said, not just once, not just twice, but you're going to want to do this for a month. And it can be messy. I would think 2-3 tablespoons of charcoal powder in water, in warm water, and take a bath would probably be enough. And Kimberly's probably going to say more, but
I will say more. I will say that you probably want to do about a half a cup to a cup And this is how you do it. You take like a mason jar, okay, and fill it half full of water, or just a third full of water, and then spoon your charcoal in, and then just cap it really tightly and shake it up. And then you just pour it gently into the bath water as it's filling up, and you won't have any mess. You won't have the poofing up or anything like that. And that's the best way to put it in. We have amazing stories. We had a man who, oh goodness, he had a tumor on his spine, and he had surgery, and he became paralyzed from the surgery. It was really a bummer. He became paralyzed from his waist down, and he was now in a wheelchair. And so he had called us, and was there anything? And I said, well, yeah, why don't we just start doing some charcoal baths? And he was doing a good cup, sometimes more. And he was not working. He was an American vet, and he was on disability, obviously, because of the being paralyzed, but even before that. And so anyway, he would literally take a bath for an hour, sometimes 2 at a time, and sometimes twice a day, but a minimum of an hour every single day. And it was a lot of work for him to get himself in and out, but he was able to do it. And you know what? He started walking again. He was able to walk again by doing this. And in a way, he was doing hydrotherapy as well, because he was in the bathtub with the hot water. I really want to say that it was a happy, happy ending, but it wasn't, because he went out to celebrate and with his friend, and he started drinking again. And because of his drinking and carelessness and quit doing the baths, he ended up in his wheelchair again.
I know our time is running out, and the question was brought up about diabetes.
Okay.
There is a short section in the book on diabetes, and again, we're not exactly sure the mechanism.
John and Kim, you can go ahead and do the diabetes. Go ahead and do it. If a person's on the line is interested in it, so go ahead and do it. What you can present.
Diabetic retinopathy, I mean, diabetes affects your extremities, and oftentimes it leads to infections and then amputation and so forth. But it can also strike the eyes. And again, Kimberly's discussed charcoal for all kinds of eye conditions, and it works very well for diabetic retinopathy as well. Now, we did have a customer who, a number of years ago, I noticed one day that he bought a 5-gallon pail of charcoal, one of our premium grades. And so I contacted him and I said, I'm curious, why are you buying so much of this charcoal? And he says, well, I have a very rare case of diabetes. It's an extreme case. And I bought some charcoal from you, and it basically, he says, I'm symptom free. And because I'm such an unusual case, the university hospital where I was being attended wanted to know what I was doing. And I told them about the charcoal. And so I'm buying this large amount of charcoal, and they're going to follow me through this process. Now, somehow we lost contact with the gentleman, but again, from his own testimony, a very rare case, extreme case, very high diabetes. And I never had a chance to question him again, how long he took it, how much he took it, the charcoal, other than him saying that, it worked very well for him. How did it work? I have no idea. Physiologically, I don't know. But again, as Kimberly would like to say, you can take it without having this worry that it's going to harm you. If it does no good, it's not going to add to your problem. It's very benign. It goes from what you take it by mouth, and it goes through your body. It never goes into your bloodstream, and it leaves the other end. And then as it goes along, it's always soaking up and sopping up poisons. And so how it's all working is a mystery to all of us, but God knows how it works, right? And Jesus used, remember, he bent down and he made a not a charcoal poultice, he made a clay poultice and anointed the man's eyes who was blind. Now, how close is that to grinding up some charcoal, making a powder, and making a poultice that Kimberly's been discussing here? Try it. Ask the Lord, the Creator, the divine physician, to add His blessing to this simple remedy, and you will be amazed.
Yeah, you know, prayer is big. When we talk with people, even over on the phone, you know, we talk with some really sad cases and such like that. And a lot of times we have prayer with people. And if we go to someone's home and do a charcoal poultice for them or hydrotherapy or whatever, we always end with prayer. I mean, always. I mean, that's everything. So, but getting back to symptoms of diabetes, where people have their toes are getting really black, they're getting bad, and the doctors are saying, well, you need to amputate that. No, you don't. All you really have to do is soak it in charcoal water and then cover it with charcoal gel. And this is how you can do it. Here's a story. This gal who, one of the top clinics in America, she was going to them, hospital clinic, and they said, you need to have your feet amputated. And, you know, she was young and in her early 20s. And she said, I'd rather be dead. And so anyway, she heard about, was it Wildwood? What? Anyway, she went there, Seventh-day Adventist Hospital, and she was wheeled in there. And this is what they did. Aside from, of course, putting her on a healthy diet and everything like that, that we know what to do, they soaked her feet in warm charcoal water, okay, for a goodly amount of time. Then when they're done with that, they just patted it dry. It didn't need to be super dry because they were going to put lots of charcoal gel. So they started with the feet and worked their way up her calf. And then they just put on like a bread bag, just any kind of bag like that, put a bread bag on, and then a heavy sock, and then just wrap it with like an ace bandage. And that's what they did every day, day in and day out. And she walked out of there. She walked out. And so it's exciting. And if somebody's willing, people are not always willing. When we lived in Nova Scotia, there was a guy who was going to have, you know, an amputation. And so John, you know, approached him and said, would you be willing, you know, to try some charcoal? And he was not willing. He'd rather have the amputation. So not everybody is, it's not their cup of tea, but you can pretty well feel people out and really coax them. But really, it's just a powerful remedy. And we can't say, don't go in there and say, oh, we know for sure it'll work. You know, we can just say, we really hope this will work, and we'll ask God's blessing on it, but it's not going to do any harm. And, you know, we've never had anybody mad at us, you know, that we cared enough to go to their home and soak their feet or put a charcoal poultice on and lay hands on them and pray for them. Nobody's really been angry at us for doing that. And the results are usually really, really encouraging. I don't know how much time I have left.
Sister Joan has a question, so go ahead. We will go on for 10 more minutes after that, Sister Kim.
Okay.
Sister Kim, I just administered some charcoal to someone with diabetes yesterday, and I also add some clay to it to help them. They also took the vaccine, so that's one of the reasons why I administer the charcoal and the clay. What are your thoughts?
I don't usually add clay to the charcoal. I don't feel any need to. I know some people that there's nothing wrong with it. There's clay actually, they're similar, but I believe the charcoal is more powerful. Well, I know it's more powerful, but the thing is that a lot of people also use castor oil. Okay. We do not recommend that. You can mix it with clay if you want to and water and such, that's fine. But if it were me, I'd just be using straight charcoal. And of course, water and, or however you want to mix it up with aloe vera gel, whatever. And, but I don't use castor oil. And there's a good reason why I don't use castor oil. It heats up the charcoal and becomes very uncomfortable for the person who has the poultice on them or the gel. As far as the vaccine goes, wow, bummer. I mean, if I don't know, if we're forced to take the vaccine, I'm not going to say anything more than what, I'll just share what I would do if it were me or my loved one or whatever. If we were forced to take a vaccine. And I would make sure that I had a charcoal poultice ready to go. I probably wouldn't put it on in front of them, but I would get that on almost ASAP, the charcoal poultice. But I would go in there with lots of charcoal inside of me. I would be drinking, lots of charcoal, more than my normal. And I would have lots of charcoal in me because the charcoal inside of you is acting as inside poultice. So there it is. It's in your intestines and stuff, and your blood zipping by, and it can pull those toxins as it's coming near. And so I would have a lot of charcoal in me. I would put the poultice on right away, or a ready-made patch, put it on immediately. Well, okay, he's telling me to do it with the right arm. And so then I would do that. And then I would go home and I would soak in a charcoal bath, and I'd probably do that for a whole week or maybe longer. But every day I'd be in that charcoal bath, maybe once or twice a day. And I would probably put it on my head as well. And we had a gal that was going through radiation. She had had surgery, brain surgery, and then was doing radiation, which she really didn't want to do, but she was pretty well forced to do it. And so every day after the radiation, and even when she wasn't on the day she didn't have the radiation, she just packed her head, or her mom did, packed her head with the charcoal. And it really, really helped. So that's personally what I would do. Yeah, we're in scary times. Any other questions?
Kim, what about charcoal with joint pain?
Charcoal with what?
Joint pain, persons that suffer from like arthritis.
Oh, for arthritis? Is that what you said?
Yes, that's what I said.
Okay, so arthritis. Arthritis is usually inflammation of some sort, okay? And it's usually a toxin a lot of times is causing that inflammation. Now, I'm not going to say it's going to work 100% of the time, but we've had a number of people that it has helped tremendously. If it's a poison that's causing this inflammation and the pain, and the charcoal patches that we have, charcoal works really well for pain. And we think, I mean, really only our creator knows. But we think the reason that it's working well for the pain is that it's pulling out the toxin that's creating the inflammation, and then the pain is gone. And the patches that we sell, we call them pain patches. Actually, people use them for a myriad of things, but we can easily call it a pain patch without any kind of problem. And charcoal is very well known for helping with pain.
Okay. What about somebody asked me to ask for recirculation, persons who have circulation problem. I know cayenne pepper helps, turmeric, ginger, but what about using charcoal? Can that help?
Using charcoal for what?
Circulation issues.
Oh, circulation issues? I don't know. I mean, circulation, the first thing that comes to mind is start exercising. The more exercise you can get, the better. But I mean, the life is in the blood, taking charcoal baths, charcoal for purifying your blood. Yeah, I think it would help for circulation, but really just start walking. start getting out and start moving that body, because, you know, that is so, so critical.
Thank you. Is there anyone have any questions? Then I'll ask John and Kim to give their closing remarks. Any question anyone have?
Yes. I want to find out if it can help with toothache and headache and pain around the chest area, because I think my toothache is affecting a lot of part of my body, because that's been like about 6 years now since I have this toothache. I did an x-ray the other day and doctors could not find which one of the teeth was giving problem, and I don't want them to take out the wrong teeth. So I am bearing the pain until I can get to do another, I can do another x-ray, which is for the brain. But until then, I'm going to use the charcoal principles that you have laid out earlier. I'm going to try to do a 3 weeks, five a day. Then after that, the 3 days for 10 weeks and see what happens. But I'm having tremendous headache coming from my head. I don't know what is the problem, if it is a result of the toothache. But one thing I realize, when I do eat sweet stuff like ripe banana and those kind of stuff, like after a while, the headache comes on. So I don't know what you think how the charcoal could help relieve the pain.
Okay, did you hear when I said about sleeping with the charcoal in my mouth all night?
I didn't catch that part.
Okay, why don't you just email me? I don't know if I have time to go through the whole story, but I literally, or you can call me up tomorrow on Monday. I literally keep charcoal in my mouth all night long, every single night. And it totally improved my gum health. And my dentist looked at my x-rays and was just so surprised, because my gums, my teeth were so healthy, because I had a number of root canals and no infections. And so what I have done also in the past, when I wasn't doing this, one time I had such a terrible abscess. It looked like I had a half a golf ball in my mouth, and I couldn't put anything in my mouth. I was in so much pain, and I couldn't even go to the dentist because we had a huge blizzard. So I was just stuck. And so we put a charcoal poultice over the outside of my mouth, right? Or outside of my cheek. It was just like this. You can go online and see what it looked like. It looked like I had brain surgery, because they put the huge poultice over there. Then we wrapped it around and up this way and around this way, so it would stay on all night long. And you know, by morning it was half gone. Then I did it again that night, the next night, and it was really had mitigated it tremendously. And now I was able to start stuffing my mouth with the charcoal in it. Another thing you can do is mix charcoal with coconut oil. Use coconut oil. Charcoal and coconut oil, you can do half and half, or 2 parts coconut oil to 1 part charcoal, and start swishing. And it's called oil pulling. Don't pull too hard. You know, you don't want to pull the infection out too quickly. Just start swishing. You have to do it for a minimum of 20 minutes. Okay, longer, better. The longer you can do it. And after 40 minutes, spit it out, take a break, and go back and do it. And this will improve your gum health tremendously. And then at night, you can mix like 2 tablespoons of charcoal in warm water, mix that up, and then take a sip, and then you can spit it out and take another sip, spit it out, take another sip and spit it out, and then sleep with it all night long. I actually buy these strips to put over my mouth, so it'll keep my mouth shut. And that keeps my pillowcases okay, but you don't need to have that. But if you want to, just feel free to give me a call tomorrow, or just email me.
Go on the website and get the address.
Go on our website. There's customer support at Bioactivated Charcoal. It's at the bottom of every page. So just go to contact us, and I'll be happy to help you and send you some links.
I like
Can you post the link in the message section so I could see it?
Oh,
The
do it?
website.
He's
Post the
asking me to
link.
put this in the chat. If you could put the
Oh,
link.
after the thing here?
Yeah, just say it, Kim, and my sister will type it in. What's the the site you're wanting to go on or your contact details, email, and he can email you. So Faith, my sister will type it in the chat. So go ahead and tell her what it is, Kim.
Do it now?
I'm not sure where.
Yeah, go ahead now.
Do I do it now in the chat?
Yes, you can do it now in the chat.
Oh, okay. So let's see. Where's the web? Where's your browser, John?
Can't you just add it there?
Okay, well, no, I'd have to send the link. So which one was I going to send him?
I use it by activate. Just use charcoals. Or by activate charcoal.
Okay, so let's see. Let me find it for you. I'll find the link for you.
I would like to say, in closing, I'd like to say that I was first introduced to natural medicine over about 45 years ago. And Kimberly, maybe not that long, but
No.
we have not used any drugs over all this time. We've had broken ribs, broken tailbone. My eye's been punctured with a stick. I've had flesh-eating disease, malaria, dysentery, all kinds of wounds, infections, bronchitis, just different things that we've all endured here. But over all these years, we've never used drugs. What we have used is some natural remedy, and oftentimes it's charcoal or hydrotherapy. Maybe it's aloe vera, maybe it's an herb. But God has a wonderful amount of different herbs or remedies that we can use. And if charcoal doesn't work, then God will have another remedy close at hand that you can use. It's just a matter of praying and searching. And oftentimes there's folk medicine that you can tap into, that there's a remedy that will work. Moringa leaf is a tremendous remedy in Africa. And we could go on and on about different remedies, but we've been talking about charcoal. We just encourage the listeners to know that if you're following God's plan, you should expect the Lord to add his blessing to your treatment. You're trying to do it in a natural way that gives him honor and glory, and he will endorse that with a blessing many, many times. Kimberly, you wanted something to say?
I don't know. It's pretty exciting, the natural remedies that our Creator has provided for us. And we shouldn't be afraid to try them. And I really encourage people to try God's remedies over man's first any day. The sad thing is, a lot of times people are calling us after they've gone through the whole route of chemotherapy and radiation, this, that, and the other thing. And it's just like, try it naturally first. I mean, just think that that is what you would want to do first and foremost. And then, and if one thing doesn't work, just keep searching for something else. But of course, I just want to say we are not doctors, and we just, always, check with your healthcare practitioner or a professional before using charcoal. The one who really knows how charcoal will interact with your drugs is really the pharmacist. He's the one who will know best how it's going to react with your drugs. And he's always a good one to ask. So, but,
That's it. We hope this is sort of a stimulus to get people to do their own research. When you go on the internet, there's a lot of conflicting information there. I think it's well to know that charcoal is very benign. It's not going to add to your problems. In spite of what you may read or hear on the internet, there's a lot of negative press out there, but charcoal's been around a long time. It's been used for 4,000 or 5,000 years. The history goes way back. Charcoal is on the first manned flight to Mars. It has a reserved seat. Charcoal is on the International Space Station, and charcoal is in military first aid kits. And the reason why is because it works. So it's not something new. It's not something outlandish. It has a lot of science behind it. And if we add our faith to it, God will bless it abundantly. more than we can ask or think many times. So we really thank you for this opportunity to share with you. And Kimberly's usually available. You can call or email, and she's more than ready to help you with some suggestions, or maybe do a little research for you if we don't know the answers ourselves.
I just want to thank Kimberly and John. It was a beautiful presentation. We are told that a home should not be out of two things, and one of them is charcoal, and the next thing is cayenne pepper. You have those two things in your home and you are doing well. So we want to thank you, Kimberly and John, for making yourself available. I was blessed. Just as the first presentation, I was blessed. We have posted in the group the recording of the first presentation. So those who didn't see the first one, you can download that or just view it via Zoom, and you will see John's presentation the last time we had him. And so we thank Kimberly. And as soon as this one is available, we'll also share it with our persons. In closing, Sister Avo will close off in prayer, and we just want to thank everyone for staying online. I know some person had to leave, but we know it was a blessing, and God will really make provision for us in everything. And charcoal is one of the most powerful present thing that we can use.
Let us pray. Our loving Heavenly Father, as we come before your presence, Lord, at this moment, we just want to give you thanks for this platform that we were able to use, and for the ministry of Kim and John. Lord, we thank you that we were able to receive the blessing that you have shared with them, that they, through their ministry, is able to share with us the benefits of this gift of charcoal that you have blessed us here on earth with. Lord, we thank you so much for the many testimonies. We thank you so much for the wisdom that you have given them. And Lord, in return, we ask, oh Father, that you will bless us with this knowledge too, that we may be able to practice what we have just heard, and by faith, trusting you that you will teach us how to use charcoal in our homes for the ailments that we just heard about, as well as many others that we are uncertain about how we can use charcoal to alleviate many of the problems that we are faced with. Additionally, Lord, I just want to ask you where we are in need of further knowledge and wisdom concerning charcoal and other remedies, that you lead us and that you guide us and help us to be willing to first try your remedy, because your remedy is the sure and perfect way. And we ask, oh God, that you will continue to bless us as we go our separate way. We ask, oh Father, that you go before us and that you continue to be with us throughout the evening, that you will send your angels that excel in might and power to watch over us, is our prayer. In Jesus' name we pray and give thee thanks and say amen.
Amen. Thank you.
Thank you.
God's blessing to all of you.